In 2022, Disney Marvel premiered the series Moon Knight, which pits a superhero who serves the god Khonsu against a servant of Ammit who essentially wants to unleash a pseudo-Egyptian answer to the Purge. As far as historical detail, this series got a lot of things wrong, and maybe one or two things accidentally right. But what about the god Khonsu? How does the modern version compare with ancient myths? It's time to move past the comic books and take a look at the real lunar gods of ancient Egypt, starting with Khonsu. In ancient Egypt, Khonsu was the son of the creator. In Thebes, this meant he was the child of Amun-Ra and his wife Mut. But in Memphis, Khonsu could also be regarded as the son of Ptah and Sekhmet. And in Kom-Ombo, he appeared as the son of Sobek and Hathor. But in all of these groupings, Khonsu played very specific roles. He could embody the moon because he was the heir of the sun, just as the full moon shines with sun-like radiance that lights up the night. Khonsu followed the life cycle of the moon's phases, appearing as an infant with the new crescent, reaching his prime as a falcon-headed man wearing the lunar disk during the full moon, and aging with the waning moon. With the dark of the moon, Khonsu returned to his mother's womb to be reborn with the next crescent. And as the son of goddesses who all acted as the Eye of Ra, Khonsu had the power to control the arrow demons that his mother unleashed. In the pyramid texts, he could also take the form of a baboon, as keeper of the books of the end of the year, who determined fates and punished the wicked. This aspect may have been the inspiration behind the Marvel superhero, but it's hardly new. Egyptian kings, including Tutankhamun and Ramesses the Great, had themselves pictured between Amun and Mut in the place of Khonsu, signaling their parallel role as the heir of Amun-Ra on Earth, who protected their subjects and punished wrongdoing. No cape or bandages required. Khonsu's child aspect held great appeal for ordinary Egyptians. As the king of all children, he could blend with Horus the child as protector of the young. In the late period, he was invoked for protective oracles when a child was born, and he could bestow material blessings. A spell for financial success from the Greek magical papyri called for a shop owner to enshrine an image of Psentebet, or son of the she-falcon, which was none other than Khonsu, in this spell combined with the Greek god Hermes to attract brisk business. But Khonsu wasn't the only lunar deity of ancient Egypt to be associated with Hermes. Our next moon god is best known by his Greek name Thoth, but in the Egyptian language he was known as Jehuti. Jehuti was likewise the son of Ra, and could take the form of a baboon. He's perhaps best known, however, for his form of a man with the head of an ibis. He wears the white keni, or sash, of a lector priest because he invented writing and written spells were one of his specialties. Humans who served as Karihab, commonly translated as lector priest, read from temple scrolls and copied down spells for amulets, all work that served Jehuti. Again, no cape and bandages required. As the scribe of the gods, Jehuti reported to Ra about the state of the world every morning. He gave counsel to the other gods and mediated their disputes. When the Eye of Ra goddess became angry and fled to the desert, the other gods tasked Jehuti with persuading her to return. Despite his own terror of the powerful Eye of Ra, Jehuti used his superpowers of eloquence and persistence to convince the goddess to come home. One could even call Jehuti the ultimate nerd god, because he always used wisdom, not muscle, to triumph. He even had a nerdy wife in some traditions, being the lady scribe Seshat. Human characters who might be considered the ancient equivalent of superheroes had connections to Jehuti. One of them was even based on a real person. Setna Khaemwas, the main character of a cycle of stories from the Greco-Roman period, was based on Prince Khaemwaset, son of Ramesses the Great, who served as high priest of Ptah in Memphis. The fictional Setna Khaemwas was also a learned son of the pharaoh, but in one story he developed a dangerous obsession with obtaining a scroll of magic spells written by Jehuti himself. But this story is far from Disney fare. In it, Setna has an erotic encounter with the daughter of a high priest of Bast, the seductive Lady Tabubu, which was considered so explicit that early Egyptologists didn't even include that scene in the books of the time. Toward the end of ancient Egyptian history, Jehuti the 3 times great combined with the messenger god Hermes to produce the literary figure of Hermes Trismegistus, and many apocryphal books of wisdom and prophecy, such as the Emerald Tablet, were attributed to him. Early Muslim scholars even equated Hermes Trismegistus with their prophet Idris, and Renaissance authors considered him a contemporary of Moses. But don't put too much stock in these connections. They were invented long after hieroglyphic script, the original sacred words of Jehuti, had been forgotten. Other deities had connections to the moon without being exclusively lunar deities. The moon's cycle was identified with the Eye of Horus, which waned when it was injured by Set and healed to become the Ujat, or sound eye, when it waxed full again. The moon could also be seen as an aspect of Osiris, and in this form he was protected by either Jehuti or by Anubis. Images of Anubis carrying the lunar disk, representing Osiris, in turn had an influence on early Coptic and medieval art of Saint Christopher, where he sometimes had the head of a dog. In the series Moon Knight, Khonsu is an embittered deity who pushes his human servant to his limits as part of his reckless pursuit of justice. But the real Khonsu was hailed by his worshippers as merciful and giving to those he loves. His fellow moon god Jehuti granted learning and wisdom to humankind, but he closely guarded knowledge that was too dangerous for humans to wield. The fictional hero Set Nakayamwas tried to steal some of Jehuti's forbidden magic, embarking on a dangerous adventure. But that story won't be getting the Marvel treatment anytime soon. Enjoyed this video? Then be sure to hit like and subscribe to the Kemetic Independent channel. You can also buy my books on Lulu.com, and special thanks to all my Patreon supporters. Join us for updates, outtakes, and exclusive videos only on Patreon. Check the description for links.